The bald man has been in this little situation with the journalism's going back and forward in conflict all the time. And I'm noticing a trend of like gaming journalism being often on this like the spectrum of topics these days. I think that personally that gaming journalists are in no need anymore. There's zero reason to have them. And I'm feeling like I felt for a while actually that they are been dying since the 2000. I see that Asmon has posted a video about it, and I kind of want us to take a look at it.
Gaming journalism. Where is it? And more importantly, why is it? Today, we're going to be answering those questions and figuring out why gaming journalism is what it is today. And recently, there's been some other people
constantly on the spectrum,
which are the people that work at the parent company of Kotaku. Whenever they realized that inevitably, I think they were losing money, losing brand value, or losing some combination of the two, and they have decided to completely flip the script on Kotaku, which is the games journalism website that they own. And instead of Kotaku writers posting their hot takes on just different topics, now these games journalists are going to be, unfortunately, having to write articles about video games. So this has come to the very big dismay of a lot of the people that work there. The editor-in-chief of Kotaku has resigned, along with, I think, a handful of other people. Now, I don't necessarily...
So the problem is that Kotaku has had the most wild type of reputation for such a long time now. All they have done in the past, I would say years, is to create clickbait that focuses on hatred, that focuses on rage baits. And it leaves a bad stain in the mouth to everyone trying to view their content. And even, I would say, advertisers. Like, why would anybody with the right mind think that I want to have my content, my products, everything I'm paying for advertised on your website whenever they're stained with so much malicious intent and so many malicious articles? Why would anybody wish to do that? And that's why I kind of feel like this situation has been brought up. This is why I think that maybe the owner of Kotaku don't like the writers, or maybe he wants to kill all of Kotaku. Who knows?
I think this is necessarily a win in all cases, but I do think for a lot of people it definitely is. And
it is, because people hate Kotaku. Everybody hates Kotaku. They just don't want to deal with them. They find them so obnoxious and annoying.
Let's talk about why I think that's
What up,
happening,
boys?
because I actually
Doing
don't
their
think
job.
it's
Can you believe
entirely
that?
something that has to do with Kotaku. I think that it's a problem, a meta-level problem with number one, games journalism, and number two, text media in general online, and the way that people
Yo, how you
consume
doing,
it.
boys?
So I wanted to talk about why I think this is happening and where I think it's going to go.
I think, like, before he gets into it, I think that gaming journalism has kind of shifted in a change where we don't need to look at any more any magazines or articles, because it doesn't really reflect enough knowledge, and it's not as easy digested as, for example, like a YouTube video. For example, somebody shortly tweeting it about it. You know, why would you go through a third-party link? Why would you go through Twitter, for example, to click a link to read an article when you could just, for example, just watch it, like read the whole point on Twitter? Like, you have Reddit and many other sources now where the way to share information and topics regarding upcoming releases and generally current releases has kind of changed. And the way journalism used to be before was that they were the one having access to all of this information because they were working closely with these third-party companies, these AAA publishers and stuff like that. But nowadays, you have streamers, you have YouTubers, you have more sources of people that have a broader range and also has access to this information. So the water of getting this kind of information has now been sort of spread around, and because of that, the consumers has filtered out the best way of taking the resources and where they find most information to be more like suited to their interest. Because let's say if you are a gamer, okay, you are a 40-year-old dad and you like video games, well, maybe you will take the criticism, for example, Corn Carnage will give, or Asmon will give to a game more, because you can sort of relate more to that individual. And because of that, because of all these choices and the way the whole spectrum has kind of like spread around and like just generally like widen up and the widen up with where you can find these sources of information, gaming journalism nowadays is just kind of outdated. And because it becomes outdated, you see these sources where they write articles about video game have to go to the step of creative obnoxious and hatred, like clickbaity, and articles that are for targeted toward hate, or just generally things that are that will kind of rile up the crowd, because if they don't do that, they will never have any attention at all.
And I want to categorize kind of a lot of the concerns that I have into two different categories.
Don't filter for the best info, they filter for the convenience. That's exactly it.
Things that are problems on a meta social level.
I watch Asmon, Adley, and Annie Fuchsia play games for my reviews. Of course, I don't buy on launch anymore. Yeah, because like there's a lot of people nowadays that are also shifted away from the pre-purchase ideal. They like the pre-purchase market. They rather watch their a content creator or somebody they feel that have the same interest as them and take their perspective onto it and take their view on the game or generally media and take that as value, because they can find more, they can feel more related to their interest to that content creator than they would to this random individual from like IGN writing an article. IGN now is doing great, but it's not because of their articles
that exist beyond games journalism, and then you're also going to have problems that exist in the context of games journalism and things that relate more directly to.
Also, whenever you follow a certain streamer, you're aware of their bias and interest, while most of those news outlets are pretty much more aggregated of faces or PBS. What is that word? But yeah, I agree with the point. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Specifically being affected in this specific way. So the first thing I want to talk about is the Kotaku things and the more specific reasons of why this version of games journalism is dying. And if you go, and by the way, I want to make sure that everybody, we're all on the same page here, okay? Open up Google, search for trends, look at all of the most popular gaming websites and, you know, the ones that write articles and all this, and, you know, search, look at worldwide, set the trend from 2004 to now, which is the longest data segment that they have on Google Trends, and look at the popularity of these websites, because every fucking one of them goes, it goes all the way down. They're all dying, and Kotaku does seem to be leading the charge there. And I think some of the reasons, obviously, is that Kotaku has had a lot of different people writing for the website over the years, and I think that with a lot of articles, this really kind of started to happen. The schism started to happen, I would say, in about 2014. This was like the advent of Gamergate. This is whenever people started distrusting games journalists, and in general, there became this adversarial relationship that was created between consumers of video games and critics of video games.
Yeah, because it becomes like a me and them situation, right? It's like these people they are different. They have lower like understanding, and whenever you belittle like the consumers and the audience you're trying to advocate for, you're kind of gonna get the response you're receiving now.
Professional critics of video games, commentators of video games, people in the video game industry and in the professional video game media space. So whenever this happened, obviously, you know, whenever you tell gamers that they're irrelevant, well, guess what? They think the same thing about you, and so that's pretty much when a lot of these things went down, which is really kind of an obvious thing that you could expect to happen. You know, insult your audience and they're going to leave. Who could have imagined that? So I think this is really one of the big problems, is that obviously you have a website like Kotaku. And
not a good point though. I think generally things like lose interest in public eye, so most of it, all website on CC will die slowly over time. Well, this is with all gaming journalism. Like all of their websites are kind of going down. It's just not Kotaku. It's not just IGN. It's like all of them. All of them has the same type of Like if you look at their analytic on traction or search results, they all have the same thing. So it's like a common thing right now.
The website is putting out 50 articles a day, let's say 100 articles a day, maybe let's say only 20 articles a day, and you hear something problematic.
Also, I think that is a really good thing to think about as well. They spam too much. You know what I mean? How can you go to their website and look at articles whenever they plow like 20 articles every day? Like, I feel like it filters out things and it just becomes too much.
About Kotaku maybe once every month, right? Maybe somebody has a crazy take, somebody says something stupid, and this happens once a month, maybe let's say twice a month. Think about how many articles get released, and then think about what the ratio of omega fuck-up articles there are. It is a very, very small percentage of articles, but unfortunately, for Kotaku, if you build 100 bridges and you suck one dick, you're not a bridge builder, you're a dick sucker. And I'm going to tell you guys something. For the last 10 years, there's been a lot of people that think Kotaku sucks dick. And that's the reality.
They suck dick the wrong way.
People are going to stop taking a website.
They don't suck it the long way, they suck it the side way.
Baby out with the bathwater. They're not paying attention to the good articles. All they see is the bullshit. And then the next time Kotaku puts out an article about a new game that's well researched, well understood, and everything, well,
they used to be better. Yeah, true.
Say, oh,
I agree.
Kotaku, aren't they the ones that did X, Y, or Z? So whenever you have a few artists or writers, I guess you could say, and not really artists, but writers on this platform, or bloggers in a lot of cases, let's be honest, writing these opinion pieces about video games in order to garner clicks. Because really, if you go to the website, this is Kotaku, this is almost any of these websites. I'm 20, very funny. I was thinking about the year 2002, but I'm 33, okay? And so I remember back in the early 2000s, getting on my mom's...
The good old days, man. 2,000 years ago.
And I swear to fucking God, guys, there were porn websites in the year 2001 that had less pop-ups and more ethical ads than a lot of these new gaming websites do right now.
And the thing is, that's the thing, because they don't earn enough money to survive, right? They put videos auto-playing with sound, fucking like ads on each corner of the article, ads within the article, and also pop-ups telling you about ads and telling you to turn off ad blocker. Like, it's so obnoxious and it's not user-friendly, so you just want to leave. But what can they do? They're not getting enough ads viewed to make money.
It's insane. I go up there and I'm getting like 4 different pop-ups. They're trying to get my
autoplay ads are so bad. Oh my God. If a website, I said this before, if a website autoplays an ad with sound, I go to my uBlock extension, I go to my filters, and I block that website forever. I hate that shit. That is the most annoying thing ever.
They're like, can we locate your address? What's your zip code? Can we advertise this to you? Do you want DoorDash? Like, what is going on? It's insane. So it's like I open up...
Is all of this while you just want to read the article about the ass of some character in a video game? Can you believe that? Like, what the hell is all of this shit?
And I'm concerned that I'm going to get a virus somehow. And honestly, a virus would probably be the least of my concerns. So what ends up happening is that people obviously turn off ad block, but the reason for that is because the
ads block. Yeah, true. That does it too.
That's effectively what's happening. So what happens? Well, it's very simple. If you have a website that's plastered full of ads, you are no longer focusing on creating quality content. You are now focusing on creating content that generates a large audience. And the truth is that rage bait articles do that. There are a lot of people that are going to go to a platform, they're going to read the article, "Oh, son of a bitch, and then they're pissed off, and then they leave. But at the end of the day, the person that wrote the article is still getting paid 25 cents for that or whatever. So that's effectively what happens. So
and that, by the way, will never go away. Creating rage bait content will never go away. It is drama, and rage bait content is a form of material and entertainment that people love to just roll around in. They cannot have enough of it at all. And I don't know, I think it's like human psychology, definitely drama, but like I just think that a lot of people just can't get like ignore it, and it's always profitable. That's why whenever you go to Twitter, you will always see a couple gimmick accounts trying to rage bait. They're trying to rage bait. They're posting like videos of things that are shock value and stuff like that. And whenever you open their tweet, you will see OnlyFans recommendations and advertisement under it. Because why do they do this? Why do they do all of these shock factors and rage bait posts? Is to make money, because people look at it and they can put an ad underneath it and make more money, and it works. But does that mean that you have any form of self-respect or will gain any fans or respect from an audience? No, you will not. People will like it less and less. And that's what's happening with Kotaku, for example. Not enough. They're not enough just a gaming journalist. They're also a gaming journalist that work with this philosophy for many years. And now it's just crumbled and broken down so much they can't even get like advertisers on the website.
These websites are built off of the economy of rage bait.
Hi, Rebarium. How you doing, buddy?
Economy of hate clicks. And that's what ends up happening.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
then those hate clicks generate a negative, I guess, like perception of the website, and that negative perception bleeds over to other writers and other contributors on the website, and it effectively
just to read an oversaturated article. Exactly.
Well. I think there's probably most people at Kotaku are probably just video game enjoyers who want to write articles about video games, then they love video games. But there are a handful of people that effectively spoil the whole bunch for the eyes of the gaming public at large. And I think obviously there are some people that like the website. Kotaku's had good articles before. I don't think Kotaku is always wrong or terrible or they deserve to go out of business or anything like this, to be totally honest.
I think so. I hate Kotaku. There was a time in the past when I enjoyed reading Kotaku articles. When that was that? A long time ago. A very long time ago. But I feel like every time I've heard about Kotaku since 2018, every single time it's been about rage bait. And I don't like when a business practice is just to shit on people. I don't think that is great. I don't like that. And that's my opinion. So as a consumer, I will just not consume their products. And if they go away, well, tough shit. That is what it is.
I respect everybody's freedom of speech, especially the ones that
toxic journalists, exactly.
Unfortunately. So yes, but again, I do
think
that very clearly this is what's happening, is that these people are being alienated.
Exactly.
And they no longer go to the website for anything, even though they've only been alienated by a handful of users. So basically, they're not wanting to go to the website. Website's credibility is damaged, and now nobody takes it seriously. Now, is moving over to making guides on the website actually going to work? Well, I think let's find out. I really can't see it going any worse than what they have now. So really, I think they should try it out before they fire everybody. And
I think so too. Like, I think they're like at the worst place possible. So they can't be worse than what they're off with now. They can do whatever the hell they want. They can try whatever the hell they want, but gaining the respect, the goodwill, like Abe says, worst thing is it's hard to gain the goodwill of your audience back. You'll always be known as a rage bait grifter. And that is fucking facts. The problem is that they can probably gain some more audience if they start releasing good articles. If they start releasing informative like articles regarding gaming or guides or stuff like that. But the market is oversaturated, and there's a lot of things and sources like you have Maxroll, Reddit, Twitter, YouTube content creator, IGN now is doing great. You have so many sources of goodwill people that are creating great content, very easily understandable and very easy to access without the million pop-ups shoved in your face. Why would anybody, any new or anybody just generally go to Kotaku anymore at all? They can try and they can maybe gain some new audiences and see if they survive. But I honestly think this is the fall of Kotaku. I don't see them coming back that much from it because their name is stained for the rest of their like existence. There's too much news to keep up with, so everyone just checks Reddit or YouTube, because for the specific games you go to a subreddit, YouTube, a Discord, or a wiki anyways. Exactly. It's like, why would you go to Kotaku? The reason why people went to Kotaku the last like 6 years is because of rage posts. Why would anybody go to Kotaku now? Like, after all of this, I stopped reading gaming journals once they published an article about The Witcher 3 not being diverse enough. Yeah, what the fuck? Like, get your politics out of my game. If a game is about politics, great. If a game developer wants to create politics, great. Don't never push politics into someone else's idea or someone else's universe. Like, that's just weird.
Somebody had the idea that, you know, they're telling the writers they have to make 50 guides a week on Kotaku now, and somebody says that, oh, well, they don't really think that. They just want to put out this like massively high expectation, so hopefully that they will demoralize the employees and make them quit, so they don't have to pay unemployment or any severance.
I think that's smart.
You know, it's the parent.
That is really smart.
Oh, there's a part of me that believes that's probably true.
Imagine if they do that. That would be something.
And the guide idea of like making content about that, I do think is good.
And I do want to say this, by the way. I do think it's bad whenever somebody loses their job. Like, it sucks. Like, losing your job is awful. But the problem is that I've seen so many like people on the top row of Kotaku. Many are like writers at Kotaku that are actually just pieces of shit. Like, they are like on their personal accounts. They're racist, they're rude, they say so much bad shit. And I don't know, like, I feel like in a way just karma is like switching around and hitting them on the back, because like they have been like assholes for such a long time and nobody has given a fuck at all. So I feel like this is just hitting them back. Yeah, I mean, it just sucks to losing a job, but at the same time, how can you do? How can you don't see this coming? Yeah, how do you not see this coming at all after all of this shit's been going on for so long? It's something you would expect, right? There's so much dead weight in tech-based and online companies. Yeah, that's true as well. I mean, for sure. Like, you see it all the time nowadays. IGN front page now has a guide on best VPN for Call of Duty. What the fuck? WWE 2K24 and Stardew Valley 1.6 patch highlight. If there is only 1% of content that's for you, who goes there? I feel like that's the thing. Like, it's fluttered about. I don't know. I feel like it's just so much spam on those websites. Like, why would I ever go directly to? So here's a question. Do you think that anybody ever goes directly to these websites? Or do they find these articles from third parties? Because I'm gonna be honest. I mean, this is my perspective, and I might be completely wrong. I feel like nobody sits there and goes to Kotaku, IGN's website, their front page, and look for articles. They always find them from third party. Third party clickbait. There you have it. That's my perspective on it. So what kind of business model can you have? Because the user accessibility on their website is dog shit, and it's filled with so much spam, you don't want to be there. So how does that business even thrive? That's what I don't understand. Imagine being an average Kotaku writer, seeing the editor-in-chief quit because they were told to actually write about games. Can you believe that? A gaming journalist had to write about games. Oh my god, they probably have to lay down a little bit. God damn. Oof.
It's possible for Kotaku to redeem its reputation and its image. It will probably take 5 years, realistically, for that to happen. And every time that something bad happens, it's, you know...
I mean, I get what you're saying, Abe. I remember when WoW, World of Warcraft, a video game about racism and race war, whenever people wanted to think about, like, why there aren't more, like, this and that in the game, and putting politics in it, like, the whole game is built upon like orcs and humans wanting to murder each other, Taurens killing humans, killing dwarves. Like, this whole game was about like murdering each other. And I can understand if the developers of the game want to add something new or different, but I just felt like whenever those people write articles that are like completely out of the vision, Like, I'm not saying I don't care about what they've added, by the way. I'm just saying that whenever somebody has a game like a game about race war, and they're trying to inflict their own personal politics into the game that they have no association with, that's usually weird to me. I don't know why are you thinking about this. Just enjoy the game. Just go through the game. If it's not for you, it's not for you. That's it.
You know, take the boy out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the boy. People are going to be bringing that up with Kotaku every single time, right? It's the bridge builder and dick sucker thing all over again. So I think it'll be very, very hard for them. And I can't really see a world where Kotaku exists in the capacity that it does now in, let's say, 10 years from now. And so those are the reasons why I think Kotaku specifically are having problems. Now, I want to step back one step and
hi Spider, how you doing?
Collectively and why I think it's having problems. The reason why I think a lot of games journalism is having problems is simply because it's an outdated medium, because a lot of other YouTubers are able to create content faster. They're able to be more agile. They're able to create the content in a way that, for example, here, let's do a little fucking experiment here. Right now, gentlemen, if you are listening to this video and you are not watching,
hi Radio, how you doing, buddy?
Over and comment that, because I'm very, very curious. There are a lot of people who are passively consuming video content, even though it's me here on the camera, but who gives a shit about that?
Also, by the way, yeah, I didn't actually listen to what he said, but a really big thing people also forget is that people can't read, or they can read, but they can't read. What the fuck is that pause? Like, I have seen so many times moderating the chat room for this fucking guy where people are unable to read shit. And I think about this as well when I go through TikTok, Twitter. People can't read for damn shit. So whenever you give them an article with 4 paragraphs, oh my god, 4 paragraphs? That's gonna make them lay down, boys. That's too much. They rather consume the video content, even if it's a well-edited video. They would rather consume that as a podcast. They would rather listen to it to hear the points and hear the views and maybe take a look at the video, because it's more interactive. It's more easier consumed by the consumers themselves. It's just a better form of media. It's a huge generational thing. It's a huge generational thing as well. Like, we have no patience anymore. We are just boom, boom, boom. Everybody want to go from one to the right. Everybody want to multitask. So whenever you consume information about your video games, you kind of don't want to do something else while listening to it.
You are just simply listening to it on your second monitor while you're playing another video game. And I think that's what happens with a lot of people. And with text,
they barely read headlines. Yeah, true, that as well.
Consumer. But with video media, you can be a passive consumer. And also video media, it's easier for it to keep your attention. I think this is especially true with video game media, because video games are fundamentally a video experience, video game. So writing text media, you are transitioning.
When it's the guys, it's easier to written. To be honest, I hate when you have to skip through a video to get step by step. Yo, Erlen, thank you for 8 years sub. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. How you doing, Erlen? I agree. I think whenever there's a guides, it depends on the media itself. Like, I think consuming a guide from Maxroll is so much more easier than going through the Kotaku or IGN guide. Because if you look at their layout, it's just way better presented. So that's another problem, but I completely agree. I think often guides are better written, but at the same time, I don't think that's what the majority think. I think the majority prefer to watch a video about a guide on how to do this and that instead of reading it, because they can't read.
That medium,
they don't want to read.
Else, and of course,
how you doing, Erlen? I hope you're doing good. Thank you so much, Erlen.
As with anything else. So I think that's also a very big component to it, is that the idea of an article or like a review written by a game reviewer I think that you're going to have just a much lower bar of quality there whenever you compare that to somebody who is reviewing games on YouTube and they only have to pay themselves, maybe an editor, and maybe 2 other people at max in a lot of these cases.
They're more flexible
So
because of that.
you have an overhead of 4 people. You have no business space. You have no.
Exactly.
You think about like Kotaku, each writer probably has a boss who has a boss who has a boss who has a boss. And guess what? All of those people are getting paid. So that means that you have to plaster, again, more ads. You have to diminish the user experience. And also, very importantly, whenever you look at it from the perspective of a writer, you have to decrease the quality of your work because you need to make money and you need to meet quotas. So what ends up happening, and this is what happens, how many of you guys have had this happen at a job, is your job creates some sort of quantitative assessment measure. I worked at the government, and so I know about this. How many of you guys have had a quantitative assessment measure that gamified your job? Well, I think that a lot of people have had this experience, and guess what happens whenever you turn your job into a, basically video game? Well, people start playing the game instead of doing their job. And whenever you have a reward structure that is created around putting out content as fast as possible, you have a reviewer who's supposed to go through 10 games a week, and they're trying to look and make sure that they have all the information for it. They're either massively overworking themselves to an unhealthy degree, or they are putting out content that is incomplete or inaccurate or not fully baked as much as it should be. I think a really great example of a lot of these reviews is New World. Remember whenever New World...
I agree with him totally. But I feel like that is also like an issue with American work structure. Like, I think that the problem here is that you're also putting these quotas and these things they must fulfill to keep their job, or else they're just right out the window. Kind of causes people to have less interest and less love for their job. And just generally, they will not have the ability to have the passion to do their all for their work. Because they're always pushed, they're always need to be rushed. They can't literally sit there and think properly about what they're publishing. So whatever you do that, whenever you have somebody that hates their job, that is rushed to do their shit, obviously they're going to take the easy road. They're just going to be doing it as fast as possible with zero thoughts and go through it. And that's where you end up with these kind of articles that you have now.
Came out and everybody was giving it glowing reviews, and then all the screenshots that were being shown in New World were all screenshots of the level 20 zones. I think that's a problem. You know, you have a massive long-form game, and all the people that are reviewing it have put 10 hours into it.
Yeah, and I can never take that argument. I can never take somebody's criticism of a game to the fullest whenever they have played an MMO for like 10 hours. An MMO that takes 100 hours, or whenever you're playing a video game and you haven't finished it. I can take criticism of like, oh, I don't like the UI. I don't like this at the start. But putting the whole game in one like view, whenever you just touch the crumbles of the game itself, you just play 10% of the game or 5% of the game. You can't really review the entire game. And that's what you see with a lot of these reviews, is that they're kind of rushed and they've like barely touched the game.
And this is a game that's supposed to be played on a very regular basis. And I think that for any of you guys,
yeah,
that have,
true.
Been very deep,
that goes more to what we were talking about earlier, Sanguine. Yeah,
through the entire thing, let's say, and you look at, for example, a Final Fantasy 16 review, and all of the screenshots are from Garuda, which is like the
rough.
First boss in the game. And it's like, well, what's the rest of the game? Well, we don't really know about that because they didn't finish it. So it's like, oh yeah, let's give this a great glowing review whenever we haven't even done the entire thing. And I think that's what ends up happening. So you have a profit monetization structure that incentivizes shoddy work and bad work. And I think also what really makes this even worse is the second component that I was talking about, or first component really, that I was talking about previously, which is how bad articles and bad content ends up getting more clicks and more views. So it creates a feedback loop of creating things that are offensive or problematic to get views instead of things that are uplifting or useful to create views. So you write a really bad review, everybody reads the review to see how bad it is, and you're making a lot of money. Oh my god, I need to make more bad reviews. And I don't think that anybody really goes into
If I put 10 hours of my time into a game, I think it's totally fair to pass judgment on it. You're completely fair to pass judgment on the first 10 hours of your video game. The problem is that whenever people pass 10 hours of their, like, the judgment on a video game, the entirety of a video game, with only 10 hours of gameplay, when the entirety of the video game takes 10,000 hours to complete, or 1,000 hours to complete. And this is because I'm using Final Fantasy now as as an example. But let's say if we have a game that is, let's say 30 hours, and you just done 10 hours, you've only done the start and touched the middle point, like barely touched the middle point. You can do a review on the introduction of the game, but the problem is that most of these articles do a review of the entirety when they did the introduction. And that's that's the problem, because they are titling these things wrong. They're kind of giving out the wrong information there because of it. And that's the problem. And that's the only problem I have. I don't mind if somebody reviews a game of the first hours they played, but judging the whole thing with so little time spent, it's not really fair.
Like that. But at the same time, whenever you have a reward structure, you do create a feedback loop one way or another. So I think
it gets better at 500 hours, trust me. Well, the thing is that this is not even a joke. Like, Final Fantasy 14, for example, has so much story. Like, this is not a grind. This is not like you just like fight like million mobs. This is actually like a story that continues on from one point to this point to that point to that point. And the entirety of that takes a long time. It does.
Is not as popular as it used to be. And a great question and a great frame of reference to think about this from is, when was the last time that an article was relevant and important enough for the gaming community to be talking about it in a metric other than outrage? I
can't even think about that. I don't know.
I can't imagine it. Right?
I don't know.
I think Jason Schreier wrote a few articles recently that were pretty good. He wrote there's like a Blizzard one back whenever the whole scandal happened.
That might be it, yeah.
Other ones too that were pretty good. He's probably the main guy I would think of. But besides that, I mean, fuck.
But the problem is that even an article like that is not even about their video games. It's about like what the hell is going on in the company. So, which is like not really what a lot of consumers want to talk about. Like, they want to know was the game good or not.
Who are we really talking about
here? Exactly, yeah.
So I think that this is also, again, there's the component of competency that is effectively invalidated because of the frequency that you need to work at in order to produce a living wage from this type of work. And then you also have the other component to this, which is the fact that I think a lot of the writing in these gaming journalism websites in general, and I think this is true also with all media, but I kind of want to use it in the second concentric circle before we get that big. But I think that especially with games journalism, you don't really have a lot of like active voice that's really seen whenever you're writing something or reading something that was written by a certain person. I do believe that written media is actually the most pure form of communication of ideas that there is. And I actually view this entire deterioration as a bad thing. I think that written media, like there are a lot of times, you guys know probably, you've probably read a few of my Twitlongers that I've written about different things.
I've never read those.
I enjoy doing that because writing things down and having them constructed like verbally and in a literal way actually gives me a way to organize it in my mind to where I can think about it in those paragraphs that I create. And
actually, that's a lie I have.
You're talking about me here, you're thinking about me, what I'm saying, but whenever there are just words on the page, I think that the words on the page convey an idea in a much more pure way.
I agree.
And there is less
constructive thought,
that message that's being sent. However,
because like you sit there and you read that sentence and you double check that that's the correct thing you want to say. Right? Whenever he's put the stop. And that's the thing, like articles like this, I think there is value with gaming articles. I think they're dying out, but there is a value to it. They are ageless. Nintendo Power. Like, if you have a magazine of Nintendo Power just randomly in front of you now, I bet majority of you would just open it up and look at it and read what is said. And it's those kind of like timeless like things you do get whenever people create articles regarding video games, because you can go back to it in the future. They do have some sort of value because then you know the constructive criticism and thoughts and ideas that people had around that time. But I could say that view to videos definitely has the same, but it's just not. I don't know. It's just not the same thing. It's just not. It's just not the same thing.
But I believe that it's true also. The truest, greatest like media and writing is the writing that you can tell who wrote it without reading the author's name. And I think that having a certain voice that you're
There's just a few of them that you can do that though.
Media that you write and inside of the things that you say. And it's like, for example, here's a real
Exactly.
one for anybody who's in the streaming community: an XQC tweet. We all know what it is. You all see it. You don't even need to know who it's from. You just see
it's
a massive block of text
yeah, we know.
Well, it could also be Donald Trump, to be fair, from back in the day. But you know, that's basically a good example of that, right? Where you're writing something in a voice that creates a personality that people know that it's you, but at the same time that's conveyed in a literary way. And I think that being able to do that is and knowing like to the degree of doing it, right? Because like there are some things that need to be more dry and some things that need to be a little bit more played up and exciting. So whenever you have something that's being written and you have to write 10 articles a week, well, you don't really have time to really think about how can I insert my voice into this? How can I dial up the rhetoric of this to make it more compelling and interesting to listen to? How can I think about the readability of these paragraphs and how it flows together? You know, am I reading this out aloud? Am I thinking about this? Like, you know, you're not thinking about effectively the psychology in which that you're creating the information that these words are, you know, meant to convey. And I think this is a roundabout way of saying that the writing quality is just kind of low. And I think that it's low, obviously, because there are a lot of people that are just really not very good writers. And then there's also another really big factor, which is, I think, equal, if not a larger factor, is that the profit margins and the profit, you know, win condition here is quantity, not quality.
Exactly, and that's the problem.
Well, you have a lot of quantity and you don't have a lot of quality. That's just life. And so that's another very big reason why I think games journalism is being kind of made irrelevant, is that the popularity of YouTube videos that are able to just release.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, why would you, you go to their website and it's like 20 articles every day. Like, what the hell am I going to read? Like, there's just so much. Like, which one? Like, I don't know. It's just too cluttered up. It's just too much.
Comprehensive and deeper, with a much lower barrier to entry, with a much more targeted audience, because, you know, it's like if you watch Skill Up, if you watch Force Gaming, if you watch Mortismal Gaming, if you watch me, if you watch Moist Critical, you know the person, Dunkey, you know, Mudahar, you know the person who you're reading that article from or you're watching that video from, and people who resonate and who agree with them in terms of their viewpoints of games, they find that content creator and they look for the person that has the same type of preferences that they do.
Yep.
And whenever you have a large-scale website for that, you don't have that ability for.
Hi, Sarp. How you doing? Welcome.
To have that a writer to have like that special audience that they can write for and know that they're making content for those people explicitly,
because they are like, you don't know them personally, you don't know their actual interests. Maybe if like a game journalist has been doing this for a long time and you've been reading their articles, yeah, sure, you can have the case then. You can maybe view it like that then. But it's kind of different, man. Like, you can have a way better understanding of somebody like a content creator's interest by just looking at their YouTube channel for a minute, just looking at their stream for like a couple times. You can get an understanding and see if their interest aligns with yours, and it's just way easier for any consumer to find the media that they should be using further on to figure out what kind of products they want to consume in the future, because this is just way more accessible, it's way more trustworthy, and it's easier.
The YouTubers can. So that's also another big reason, is that it's easier to dial in on what you really want And with a large-scale website like Kotaku, it's harder to do that. So that's basically the other point, right? This is things with games journalism. So I think, again, massive overhead, being outdated by YouTubers, low, quality articles
Agree.
that are incentivized by ad clicks.
It's so many
That's another
things.
really big problem that's affecting all news media, all video game news media. So now we're going to talk about the last.
I agree, Gabe.
Here,
I agree.
Which is the reason why I think text media in general is declining. I think that we all know, obviously.
We are too zoom, like Zoomers, even young millennials. Like, people are just not interested in reading. They can't read. They don't understand the words. They'll read a sentence and they'll fucking have a mental breakdown, because if there's another sentence after that, they don't know what to do. They need to lay down. There's just too much to read. People don't understand words nowadays, and they don't want to spend time reading any article with more than 2 paragraphs, because it's just too much. They'd rather listen to podcasts. They'd rather get the content and information said in a title or in just like a sentence, because that's just how it is. People don't have patience anymore.
Obviously, that newspapers aren't as popular as they used to be, and people are consuming text media now, but oftentimes it's in the form of thumbnails, tweets, or some other variation of
which is often very misleading.
That is less than, or at least not more than, a paragraph. So what ends up happening is that you have, obviously, how much information can you really convey in a paragraph? And people don't really care about reading as much because, again, it is an active activity, whereas watching a video or listening to a video is a passive activity that you can do while you're doing another activity at the same time, which, again, creates an advantage for video content. So I think that's also another very big reason. But in general, I'm going to be honest, I think that we have a literacy problem. I think that in general, and I don't even know if it's truly literacy or it is just literacy laziness. People just simply don't.
I don't think people are dumb. Okay, I think a lot of people are dumb, but I don't think everybody's that dumb. I think a lot of people are just lazy. I'm gonna be real. I don't think everybody's as dumb as they portray them to be. I think people are just lazy. Even kids, even teens. There are so much information nowadays that people grow up with, that people see all the time. People are smart as fuck nowadays, but just generally, everyone just can't bother. We are just all lazy, and that's the problem.
Reading as much. And I find this to be a very big problem. This is not a good thing. But I do think that it's definitely happening. And I also think that just in a general sense, and I think this has been exacerbated by things like COVID, for example, it's probably the biggest example I have, is that there has been a growing distrust towards any sort of authoritative media at all. So whenever you see a big website that has an opinion, people are like, oh, okay, well, does BlackRock own this, or does George Soros own this, right? Or Rupert Murdoch own this? So everybody is thinking that they can see the man behind the machine, and their 7 different layers of skepticism are on full activation mode, and they're not trusting anything that these articles are saying. Now, by the way, I think this is an incredibly good thing, and I think that for a lot of people, they exercise 2 different degrees of skepticism. Their skepticism for things that they agree with is like, oh, is it? Yeah, you said somebody else said that? Yeah, of course they did. Everybody knows this is true. But, if it's something you disagree with, it's like, okay, source? Okay, how many people are in the sample size? Who was sampled? Okay, where were the people that were sampled? Okay, so you're looking for healthy people, but it's in a college? Well, of course it's going to be young people. Yeah, invalid study.
People are very critical.
No, true. No, that's fake. And so people
And that's the thing, though. Just with that example, it presents that people are not really that dumb nowadays because they background check shit. That's the problem nowadays. People are so skeptical about what large media says now that they do a better check and a better background check than people did writing the fucking article. That's how skeptical people are now. That's the point we have reached in our society. Isn't that nuts? Holy, because you see a video, you see an article, you see any headline, and you will always find that one fucker that says it's fake. It has to be fake. Does this guy know anything? No. He has no idea. He's probably just saw the article, saw just the video, but he still calls it fake. And then if it becomes even a bigger thing, you will have the analyst coming out of Yemen being ready to fucking check everything related to the topic.
Very, very skeptical about the things that they disagree with, and they often get taken advantage by the things that they agree with that are still misrepresented in a way that's manipulative. So I think that's another very big problem, but that's a problem for another video. The point is that there has been a growing distrust of mainstream media and media in general, and this also includes...
I agree. People are stubborn as well.
Because people don't view them in the same way as a conglomerate like Kotaku of multiple people and, you know, a news outlet in general. And, you know, this is anything from Fox News, CNN, down to Kotaku or IGN. And people, of course, have the same viewpoints about alternative media, except for alternative media is much more overt with what their biases are in general. So I think that you have a literacy problem, whether this is actual literacy ability or literacy laziness. Doesn't really matter. I think it's same effect.
It doesn't really matter.
So
same execution.
That factor as well. And then you also have the other very, very large issue that I just think that people don't really give a shit that much about what the articles are about. Like this is something that's been happening with, I would say, everything. Like I read all of these articles and it seems like nobody is engaging with them. Nobody cares as much anymore. And I think also there has been a level of emotional elevation that all rhetoric and all conversations on the internet have. And I think that a really great temperature check for this would be if you look at a lot of the YouTube thumbnails of, you know, I wonder who. Think about all of the YouTube thumbnails and faces that different people and YouTubers make.
This game changed my life.
Faces and the more emotionally driven faces drive
I'm getting
canceled. More click-through traffic. There's a reason why so many content creators do the exact same thing. It's because it works. So whenever you have a highly elevated culture of people that are looking for extreme viewpoints and opinions, text media isn't as good at transmitting highly emotional viewpoints that are very contentious in that way, in the same way that, let's say, a video like this is, for example, or a live stream is. So you have people that are gravitating towards more emotionally driven media, and I think that text media, again, one of the beautiful and great things about text media, but also an Achilles heel in today's society, is the fact that a lot of people simply are not interested in the facts. They are not simply interested in reading information about something. They want to read a headline, they want to get mad about it, and if the headline turns out that it was wrong, well then somehow they find a way to rationalize it after the fact.
Often people won't even figure out like if the headline is wrong. Like if a headline is wrong, nobody will go back to the article and check the edit. Nobody will know about that. I've seen many cases where articles and news outlet or gaming situations are creating a spontaneous, very like dramatic like title to the article, and then the title is completely wrong and completely misinforming anybody looking at it. And they go and edit it like a day later and nobody will look at the follow-up. Everybody will take the title as facts because nobody even read the goddamn article. And you see this so often, and it happens more and more.
So we have all of these problems coming together to create what I think
80% less engagement. Is that a fact?
You know, Armageddon for the Ragnarok.
Stealth editing is so evil. I agree.
Websites. And I do think that some of them will survive, and I think that some of them are changing their business model in a tremendous way. A good example of this is IGN. IGN's been releasing a lot more videos, and these are videos that maybe are just reposts of trailers. Maybe they are...
I think IGN's videos nowadays are pretty high quality. They do spam a lot, so I'll never subscribe to IGN, but like I do think that the videos I've seen from IGN, I think they're pretty high quality. Like the reviews in the sense, like they're pretty decent. I wouldn't say they're like the highest quality, but they're mediocre enough to be consumed. Like there was a point where you couldn't even like consume their content because of just the way they're constructed and the way they're posting them, and like they're rushing everything. But nowadays they're like, okay, they're bearable. And I think that is the right approach, and I think they definitely should pursue like that matter more than writing just pure text media. And text media on top of it is great. It's amazing because it's timeless. But these videos are probably the best way to sustain themselves for now.
Looks, maybe they are insider looks, and they're also even publishing opinion pieces that people have in video form on a YouTube. And I think that in doing so, they are trying to create that newer audience and make money in a way that's more relevant to today's society. And I think that's really what's going to be happening for a lot of them. And as with anything, as millions of years, right, adapt or die, evolve or die. It's not the strongest of the species that evolves, nor the most intelligent. It is the one that is most adaptive to change. There's a quote from Charles Darwin, the guy who discovered evolution. So guess what? It's still true. And it's true even in a symbolic sense like this. So you're going to be seeing a lot of these gaming websites falling apart and probably losing at least what little relevance that they have. There's a certain point where it's no longer worth it to publish these articles and to have such a large staff on hand in order to create this type of content. And there's a lot of people that are saying good riddance, and
I personally think that as much as I don't consume gaming journalism at all, I think they have some form of value, and it would be sad to lose it all. But at the same time, with the creative freedom and as large as the internet is, I think we will never lose that form of media at all. I don't think it will ever go away. We might lose IGN and Kotaku and these large media, like these large medias, but it will never fade away forever.
Understand why you say that. I respect that. That's totally okay. But I do think it's definitely a bittersweet thing because, as I said, I think text media has a great place in society. I think it's extremely useful, and it's great at conveying a true message and an idea.
True.
Not feelings, not people, and not, oh, this is what it was, but an actual idea. And you're thinking about it internally in your own head and not consuming it as an external stimulus. And so that's my viewpoint. That's why I think that,
I agree, man.
Media is falling apart. I think that, again, there's these three different concentric circles. Text media is just falling apart in general. I see this with newspapers. It's very, very common with newspapers. And I think it's becoming common everywhere. It's just gaming media is simply one example of that occurring. So yeah, guys, I wanted to make this video, talk a little bit about this topic. I have some opinions about it I wanted to share, and I'd be curious to hear kind of what you guys think about it. Do you still read any gaming news articles? Do you care about them?
I don't.
Are you happy that they're going out of business? What do you think? And that's basically about all I've got. But yeah, I've wanted to talk about this at more of a length for a while. So I really hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.
Man, that was a good video. I kind of agree with Zach with everything he says. Like, I think that the problem is just the fact that it's getting outdated. I think it has some form of value, but I don't think their business structure and the relevance and just generally the way the consumers like to take content nowadays is, I just don't think it's in it's the right place. People don't want to read shit. They want to listen to stuff. People don't know who these writers are, and they rather know the individual creating the topics and to understand if they like the same thing as they do. Also, most of these articles are just spam, and it spams their website, making their website less accessible and just generally making the only way you find an article through third party, because nobody browses their website. There's just too much spam, too many rushed articles. There's zero value in them, but in the sense of actually sitting down reading them. But I do think that articles and written media are timeless, and it is a shame to have it lost or gone. But at the same time, the internet is so large. You have so many creators, you have so many people, so many journalists. This will never go away forever. This will never go away forever. But at the same time, why would you go back if you were in 2040, right? Why would you go back to an article that are rushed like the current articles at the moment? You will not feel any nostalgia. You'll not find any interest or any facts within those articles, because they're just really rushed garbage that are trying to just get you to click as quick as possible and load up those ads so they can get some money. But that's pretty much my thoughts. What do you guys think?